Hey, it's Eli K. Atlas, and in today's video I'm going to be doing a little speed coloring and walkthrough of a recent commission I am doing, which is page 7 of The People vs. Octopus Prime, which is a very interesting story brought to me by a client, very chill guy, named by the name of Preston. Once the book comes out, I'll have all the links and everything for you guys to check out, but let's get into the video. So this particular scene is a nightclub scene, and there's a lot going on, so I don't want to give out too much of the story, but it's a bit of a explicit kind of nightclub, hardcore, people partying, nudity and stuff. And I think in another video I'll get into some of the details about the ambience and atmosphere and character that I tried to create throughout the pages. But for these particular panels I'm working on here, you can see that the main character in the scene is a DJ, and he's kind of revisited by a ghost from the past or something like that, which you can see in the very last panel, which I started on first, with the hand coming out. Doing things like this, one of the key features for trying to establish a mood is lighting. So for this one, even though he's in the club and everything, the lighting actually works to my advantage because there's neon lights and they flicker and flash 2 or 3 different colors at a time. So I get to play with that and actually add that to a skin tone and kind of get some horror lighting going on at different points, like in this one panel. Panel 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I believe. He's got this kind of horror lighting on his face. Everything's kind of coming from the bottom upwards, and it really emphasizes his expression a little bit more, I think. When you're doing lighting like that, the light source is from the bottom, so all of the shadows are at the top. All the lights and colors that you want are going to be at the bottom. So we've got lights coming on the bottom of his nose, the plane of his cheek, around the bottom side of his cheek, his eyebrow ridge, his chin, his neck, and then everything on the back side of that is just going to be his natural skin color. Moving on to panel 1, 2, 3, 4. So the last panel is actually panel 6, but this panel is panel 4 here we're working on now. And I went with a more, so this hue, the hue for this one's going to be red, and because he also looks more aggressive, so I'm kind of using the lights to play into his expressions as well. So there's going to be a reddish light here, which is also going to be from the nightclub. They're going to have a pinkish light going, so it's going to appear on his skin as a shade of pink or a shade of red. And he's a very pale skinned guy, so the light can come through a little more aggressively than if he had his own skin tone, and I would have to try to kind of soften it or go the exact opposite way and make it really hard lighting. But it isn't that kind of a setting to do a hard lighting, I don't think, because he's right on the stage and he's kind of surrounded by lights. So hard lighting works better in the crowd, which I did on the previous page and the page after this, I believe. Designing this guy was pretty easy. I did take a few liberties as I was going along to give him like shutter glasses, kind of like Kanye West type of vibe, because this guy's like a DJ, he's pretty cocky and things like that. So I wanted to think of a way to give him a little more personality in his wardrobe as well. Going on to panel 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This one is actually panel 5 this time. So he's kind of, it's a bit hard to explain what's happening in this panel, but basically I'm kind of using the horror lighting again to emphasize his expression, because he's kind of doing this speech on like tyranny and oppression and all kinds of stuff. So I wanted to kind of emphasize and make that very dramatic, so I used the hard lighting again, the horror lighting again. That's kind of actually one of my favorite lightings to use, because I'm a big fan of hard lighting in general. So anytime I get to just use like one really hard light and emphasize the planes of the face, emphasize where the light is, emphasize where the shadow is, I really have a lot of fun doing that. And he, as a character, is a bit of a mashup of 2 real people, and I don't want to give too much of the story away again. So I had some photos and stuff to work off of, and then I kind of combined the 2 characters into one character. So I did actually have a set color palette because he was based off of 2 real people. So I had to figure out how to make that work into the color palette of the scene itself. So now we backtrack into panel 1 rather, and this one's going to be fairly straightforward. because the crowd itself is just going to be one color, because I'm going to do most of the coloring on the background itself, which is where the action is. So one thing I would advise you guys to do, or to think about as artists watching this video, you always want to break up the background from the foreground. So if the background is really simple, make the foreground very complex. If the background is very complex, make the foreground very simple, vice versa. So everyone in the foreground is very simple. I just kind of use like two colors, did a gradient, and for the background where all the characters, all the action and the emphasis is happening, that's when I do the actual colors. And it also helps visually, because the crowd themselves are being backlit by the stage lights, which are ahead of them. So all of this is pretty much your knowledge of light, your knowledge of shadows, things like that. Trimmed a little bit off of one girl in the stage. I do a lot of editing and post kind of stuff as I'm coloring sometimes, so I'll make corrections to the line art and things like that while I'm coloring if the need arises. So the girls themselves are wearing these like white bodysuits. I imagine they're PVC or latex or some kind of material like that, so they're a bit glossy. And that was the client's idea for that. He had, in the script, he had the characters, all of them pretty much dressing a certain way, and I was allowed to elaborate on it for certain scenes, but for the most part I kind of stuck with what he had, including these white suits, because I thought they were a pretty cool idea as well. And they were a great contrast to our main character, the fat DJ, who's wearing all black, but he's got like this kind of colorful shiny vest on, which I'll add the colors to in Photoshop, or as I like to call it, post-production. The program that I'm using to color this, as you can see, is Paint Tool Sci, and I really like it for its speed, its ease of access. It's like the simplest program you could possibly use. So as you can see, it's a bit of a party scene. Everyone's getting into their thing. It's pretty crazy. It's very hot in there. It's very sweaty. It's a lot of TVs, a lot of electronics, a lot of things that generate heat, a lot of lights. So I was able to play with a lot of different colors. And even as I get into the background of this panel, there's going to be a big TV with like a lion, or rather a tiger's face on it, and different montages of animals and stuff like that. So it was a very creative setting overall. We're getting to the end of the video, and I keep coloring after this, but this is pretty much all I recorded because it does take a bit of time. But hopefully you guys got something out of this video, found it entertaining, found it a little bit educational. Make sure you guys check out The People vs. Octopus Prime as soon as it debuts. I'll leave all of the links to all the required reading as soon as they are available. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. Thank you again to the client, Preston, for having me aboard the project, and I shall see you guys later.